Boom. Here we go. And we're in the building. This is it. This is how we come in. Coming in hot. Oh, man. You guys can't see this right now on the podcast, but directly in front of me, staring into my soul, is my man Andy. He's in the building right now.
Love you, Andy.
A.K.A. Awkward Andy. There's not enough chairs and stuff like that. We're going to fix that. But he's literally like, he is right here in front of me, which is incredible. And it's comforting. But episode 11, here we are, SomeBuddies Podcast, Recovery Podcast, Life Podcast, Spirituality Podcast, a ton of shit podcast. We got my usual suspects in the building, Mr. Chrissy.
Yo.
Chrissy Ladewski.
What's up?
I like that. That's some new shit. Chrissy Ladewski.
I like that.
It's nice, right?
Yeah. It's better than Chrissy L.
Yeah. We got my man J-Mac back in the building.
Hell yeah.
J-Mac back in the building. Justin's not here tonight. Just want to give a shout out to my man Justin. He just had
congratulations.
A child. Young Jack came into the world. Looks just like him. It's fucking wild how strong Justin's genetics are. It's funny because his son came out with Justin has like a very feminine, pretty features, yep. And he has like these big plump lips. And whenever Justin's like taking photos, he does this like face.
Duck face?
Duck, yeah. And his son had the face when he was born. It was incredible. He's already doing the blue steel look. So we got, first off, before I introduce our guest, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors. Rich Print Shop in the building. My man Nico on the ones and twos. Wicca, all that. You see that cool editing last episode? He threw some shit up on the TV. That was dope. My man Nico also sponsored tonight. All detailing. There's going to be a thing right here. Hit up my man Bam Bam. Yep. In the community doing the damn thing. And also, Jay, you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to the label.
The label
LTD on Instagram.
Oh, I'm wearing the hat.
They're doing Boston Legends.
Is it on there?
No.
Where is it?
It's on the back.
It's on the back.
Spin all the way
there
around.
It is. There it is.
Here's one of their shirts. And my boy Charlie the Hustle, rocking Superior. I don't want to say fuck Supreme, but
fuck Supreme.
We'll say.
Ooh. We got spicy.
We on that new shit.
That's some dope gear.
Charlie the Hustle. Right?
Dope gear.
Hell yeah.
Word. As always, like, comment,
subscribe,
share, please. We actually hit 1,000 subscribers.
Hell yeah,
which is dope.
It's huge.
That is huge.
Within a month.
So everybody that's watching and supporting, we appreciate y'all. This is for you. We got a guest in the building. We got a special guest in the building.
Special.
All right, so we all have our personal stories. It's funny because I was just talking to my wife about her introduction to you. Do you want to talk shit?
Do you hear me giggle?
You want to talk shit?
No, I'm going to let it slide. You were nice to me. I'll let it slide.
Okay.
Smart, man. She's smart.
Introduction. I came home. I was like, I ran into this dude at the meeting tonight. I gave him a ride home. He's mad cool. He's moving in with me.
That's exactly how it happened.
Dude, that's Chris summed up in one sentence.
Well, here's the deal, right?
Mad cool. Live on the couch.
Yo, he was getting kicked out of a sober house.
For what?
Because he had a female. He had a female in the sober house at that time. This is back in the day, buffet. It's so dope that we got a lot to talk about. But so. I'm not crazy. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I'm not fucking crazy, man.
About a half a cup of crazy.
I am a little bit crazy.
Special, not crazy.
So here's the thing, right? When you're in recovery and you start to do some work, you start to get in tune with yourself, right? And when I'm super empath. I go off of energy and vibes. I know instantly when I'm around someone, me and this person can be friends. We're going to be friends. I know instantly. I can feel the energy that you put off. And it's like my spirit makes friends with your spirit. And like, yep, we fit. We're cool. And then other times my spirit's like, whoa, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? And if you don't identify with that, keep coming, keep doing work on yourself. Truly, when you get to a place where you're being led by your spirit and not your head, your life becomes so much better. So That was what it was with me and Eddie. Like fucking right out the gate, instant connection. I move him into my house. He's a part of my fucked up life immediately. You know what I mean? This is pre-Chris anything. Outside of like, I was like struggling dancer at the time. Oh shit. Keep that in the fucking podcast. That is incredible.
I'm gonna hold this. If anybody needs it, it'll be right here.
Holy shit.
It's like we queued that up. Obviously, Ledoux was the one that fixed it earlier, and that's why it's coming down.
I think he set me up for failure.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
That was amazing.
It'll stay.
So, back to my story. So, me and Eddie, I see him at a meeting. I give him a ride home, all this shit. He ends up moving in. We instantly bond and connect. He got to be a part of so many different moments in my life in the early on. And I got to be a part of his early on process of seeing what he was going through, which I'll let you get to that, but to see what you were going through with seeing your daughter again and having no access to your daughter and going through all this stuff and the emotional roller coaster of that, being early on in recovery, like just all this shit. And I remember like having these conversations with you when I was trying to get into the gist of everything that I wanted to do, us having so many different conversations just like in the kitchen at that apartment about like these dreams and aspirations that like I had. I remember you didn't even have a vehicle. You getting up every day at like 3:30 in the morning to catch a bus by 4:30 in the fucking winter time, like to go work at a job that you hated. And like there was times at that point where I didn't have money and I didn't have a vehicle. I just met I was dating at that time my wife, and like she was driving me around in her Buick, fucking just like that, like where we were at in our lives, and to see like where we're at right now. And it's so dope when you have people that are a part of that process and a part of that journey, because everybody just sees where you're currently at, right? And they just make assumptions of like whatever the fuck they make assumptions of. But in anything good in life, whether it's like where we go through a process of change, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, anything good in life requires work. Nothing's easy. You know what I mean? And like you're one of those people that were around me when I was shooting in the gym, pretty much. And I was around you the same. Like we were around each other at the beginning of that journey. And like you're one of my best friends. And right now, especially in recovery, like you're that dude. Like if you ever read we put out these like Autumn does these human twos, writing about people's stories. She gives people an opportunity to do their story. Like they'll get like a year clean and stuff like that. And I don't think I've read a human two where someone's not dropping your name in it about the part that you play in their life and in their journey. And like so many people that I know in the recovery world, and I talk about this all the time, like the people that I have in my life are those people that are just like invested in human beings, right? That remember where they were at in their process and remember the grind and the struggle and the current grind and the struggle. And it's easy to help people when your life is going good. But then there's the people that in spite of their own struggles and in their own lives, they still have the capabilities to love other people and to help other people. And you got to watch me do that. And I got to watch you do that so many times, man. I watched you talk people off cliffs in the midst of your own storm. You know what I mean? I watch you giving advice to people and picking people up and still sponsoring guys in the midst of your own storm. And I always watch. That's the stuff that fuels me. And just in case you're wondering, I didn't invite you on this podcast to talk. I just wanted you to hear me talk about you. I always go on fucking rants.
I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I watched a couple, so I get that drift.
You get the drift.
I just like to give context, man. Like you're one of, and Jay can obviously, and anybody that'll watch this will be an exciting episode for a lot of people in the community because you're so fucking loved by so many people, and your story is powerful, man. Especially to anybody that's struggling with like maybe getting their kids back or haven't spoken to the kids in a while or stuff like that, or just there's so much about your journey that's inspiring, man. And like you're one of the more beautiful spirits that I have in my life, and the profound effect that you have on others and in the community, and your willingness to continually grow and push yourself and to be better. And I've gotten to work side by side with you for some years now, which has been fucking a dream come true, you know. And so welcome to the podcast, Mr. Eddie Bahena. Eddie B in the building. See, I'd let other people talk. No one wants to jump in and stuff like that.
I'm waiting for Eddie to jump in because I could go off about him too.
We'll go.
I don't want to boost his ego too much though. But he was that guy that when I was in treatment, I would take a bus to meetings downtown Nashville, and I always hear like the process clients talk about, oh, Eddie, and I'd see this guy come in and he'd raise his hand. And he would talk about like, you know, not about the things he got, but like things he got from recovery, like a car and stuff like that. But like he just touched upon his experience, and he talked about step work, and he talked about like serenity in his life. And when I found like, and I tied like Eddie was that guy that was raising his hand. It was like nerve-wracking. I remember the first time I met him, and like speaking for myself, like meeting guys, you're told to go to a meeting and get numbers and do all these things, but that's like nerve-wracking. It's like asking someone out on a date, right? But like it just so happened to like, God put my path to like, be able to work side by side with him and actually get to know him, the father, and like the person that he is today. And, he's one of the guys that I try to, one, he always helps me out at work, which is huge. But two, he helps me. He has no problem pointing out when I fuck up at work, which is all the time. Pre-screens, everything like that. But he's there to help guide me through life. He's one of those guys.
So why don't you give us a little bit, because I like to like just give some context, and then just kind of like we go from this place of like when I met you years before I met you, when you had relapsed and stuff like that, and then when I met you, you were at like the beginning of this new journey. So like, how do we go from that point where you were at that time to like where you're at now? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like give some like backstory.
It's crazy because I always tell the story about when I was like coming in and out of meetings, and like I just couldn't stay clean at all. There was like no chance in hell of me staying clean. I always tell the story about running into you two at a random spot. I was going to a Miguel concert. I was rocked. I was with my girl at the time, and I was planning on getting it rocking at this concert. And I'm walking down Lansdowne Street, and I look to my left, and y'all fucking sitting outside the House of Blues. And I'm like, this motherfucker. I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? You're like, yo, what's up? I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, nah, me and the crew are performing an intermission. I'm like, all right, cool. That's great. That's dope. And I'm like, all right, word. I can still get it rocking because they're going to be like off doing their own thing. No problem. I walk in the fucking door. This motherfucker's over here promoting a clothing line. And I'm like, he's like, yo, bro, what's good? I'm like, what's up, Jay? He's like, nah. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, good. I got 9 months. He's like, yeah, full of shit.
Yeah.
You look wrecked. I'm like, I am, and but like that moment, it's like and I know like you identify with this, and it's something that's like ingrained in me. Is like God did that. God was like, dude, these two people are gonna be here in front of you at this moment to show you that like they're still doing what they're chasing their dreams. And that was it for me. It's like I said to you the other day, like your 5-year celebration was like the first time I had heard somebody about chasing dreams, right? It's like I didn't know that existed. I didn't know people got clean and chased dreams, but I heard you saying like, I'm going on the show, I'm chasing my dreams and my passion and going perform hip hop. And I was like, this motherfucker can't dance. Like I can dance. You know what I mean? This dude don't know how to dance.
You actually can. Just so you guys know, Eddie can dance. Absolutely. Eddie is a fucking nasty dancer.
He's got style and flavor to him.
Yeah. But I'm like, my idea of hip hop dance was like what I did for hip hop.
Oh, also he's got the biggest man pecs you've ever seen, dude. Borderline boobies. Like that's a side note.
Some things just don't go away.
Yeah.
They
just
don't
go ahead.
So it's like that was important for me. It's like I seen that and I remember that, and like that moment in time stuck out for me for whatever reason, and I didn't realize it until we all became like roommates and we all became part of each other's lives. But that moment was supposed to happen at that time. Yeah. Because like coming from where I come from and like and how I used and all the things I did, like that was like the only people that came into my life were people that wanted something from me or I needed something from, right? Not just for like the goodness, you know what I mean? So that moment like changed a lot for me, and that was like recovery for me. And when I came and got clean this time, I still seen you guys doing the damn thing. It was like, they're still clean. They're still doing this, I seen Jay more in meetings. You were doing your thing, right? Like Chris comes to meetings, dips out for a little bit, comes back full force, right?
Yep.
And we met at and it was at a men's meeting, and you shared open and honestly, and I think that's where that connection kind of took off a little bit. Was you shared about some shit that I really understood, and I was like, damn, I identify with that. Clean, right? I identify with something clean, and I wasn't able to identify with anything clean for a while, and that kind of just like put a spark in me. It was like, damn, this dude's got years clean, and he's talking about making some fucking mistakes. I needed to hear that, right? It's because like a lot of people were like faking the fucking funk, right? People come in, they just want to preach all this good shit, like they do all these amazing things, and outside they're living shitty. And I heard someone talk about some honest shit, and that like it sparked me, it really did. And like you said, it was real hard for me, like growing up, like I grew up, like like my father did the best he could. My father like busted his ass to put a roof over our head and some clothes on my back and like food in our stomach. And my mother was like doing her own thing for a while. And when I got clean, like I just wanted to be a part of my daughter's life. And, you touched on it a little bit as far as I wasn't able to do that when I got clean. When I first got clean, that was not possible. It was not happening. And it wasn't my choice. It was, her mother protecting my daughter and fighting with her to get back in my daughter's life was painful. And, and being able to like, have people around me to carry me through that was important, because I don't know if I would have got through it clean. I really don't, because that was like some really, really like painful shit. And but like I got it, and like that house when I moved in with you, it's I had never had a house to call home. Like growing up, like I couldn't go in the fridge because it wasn't my shit. Like my father would be like, "That's not your orange juice. Those aren't your cookies. That ain't your milk. You didn't, you know what I mean? Like you can't have that, And always living with girls. Finding hostages and moving in there. Like I never had somewhere that I walked in and I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. And then you asked me to move in with you, and it was like I finally felt like home. Like I walked into a house and I didn't feel like I had to like tiptoe, or like I couldn't go in the fridge. I couldn't do none of that shit. Like I was able to do that, and it was like a sigh of relief. And it was like I didn't need shower shoes anymore in your house either, right? I remember that, like not using shower shoes for the first time. It was fucking amazing.
Technically, we probably should have continued to wear shower shoes, because we were some Vikings.
I think I did the first night. And I was like, what are these? Why am I wearing these fucking shower shoes in here? But it was pretty nasty in that house.
Yeah.
It's funny, I've heard that story a million times. We lived it. And I love every time Eddie shares it with clients, and then I'm sitting here listening to it like almost like I wasn't there, just listening to this story that's so powerful. But the cool thing about it is now with this platform of doing a podcast, all these other people that don't know us hear that story. Because I remember that night at the Miguel concert, and we've shared last podcast a little bit about how me and Chris had met. Like he was just joking, saying you weren't with me shooting in the gym. We always joke about that because we literally met shooting in the gym and bouncing just life stuff off of each other. And at that concert, I had wanted to do a clothing line for a while, and that's when I hit it heavy, and I remember sitting there, and I only had known Eddie a little bit from coming in and out of meetings. And I remember that night, because I'm at my booth, and I sold almost all the Street Smart shirts that night. And I just remember being so pumped, because you guys America's Best Dance Crew hadn't come, up yet. But watching them perform, I'm selling the clothing line, and I remember Eddie as a person that you see coming in and out of meetings. Mm-hmm. And I remember after we engaged and talked, the vibe that he gave off is almost like you were watching us do our thing from a distance, like you when you hear Eddie touch on it in a funny way. See, it's funny that we can laugh about some stuff now, but at the time that was a lot of pain. Yeah. You're seeing two guys that you're familiar with from meetings. That's embarrassing. You're fucked up. It fucks up your get high.
You fucked up my high for sure.
Straight up. And I remember him being distant the rest of the night. And then to know our journey, to something that sparked in my head when you were saying, people see where someone's at, success or whatever it is. I call it just someone being confident and true to themselves and finding their path and purpose. And yes, when you see someone that's living in a positive way, there's always going to be someone that will try to knock down what they did. But everyone on this panel, including Chris, even though we've only known him for a couple years, you see that there's a connection. Yeah. The human connection part. Someone's vibe, and when someone buys into, listen, these people know about recovery, but we learned something from someone that's new as well. Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Right, this whole friendship of this panel is what it's about. And chasing dreams, you hear that a lot. That's why I'm so big on that, whether it's groups or just a conversation one-on-one. I've talked like that for years, even us just bouncing shit off before anyone could witness us having a conversation. That's what's beautiful about this platform, right? It's love, unity, connection, recovery, success, business, whatever you can think of, life, right? Right? We talk about on this, and I look around at your process, and then just real quick, you know, not to get too descriptive or too, like, you know, have the story lead up too long, but I relapsed, and you guys took me in, right? And I remember feeling safe because me and Chris had already lived together a bunch of different times in our journey. And it's like he knew, I'm needing to start over. And I remember him specifically, he was going through his own stuff and was like, yo, in the next month or so, I want you to move in with us. And I just remember, like you said, it feeling at home. Plus, we've already lived together, and then we got closer. That's how life
and what's
works.
twisted about that, it's like it's people get it twisted and get like misconstrued, and people like relapse or whatever. It's like you still got experience. Like I don't care. Like you had years clean. Like it was amazing coming home to like you guys, and I share this with like the clients too. Is like I share this shit like coming home knowing I was about to go through some storms, right? I was about to go through some serious painful shit. You guys had been through that stuff, right? And had been through it clean before. So being able to come home and have that platform, like walking in my door, sitting down on that balcony, ripping Marlboros like we used to.
Yeah.
Like that.
Shout out Marlboros for holding me down through some stressful times.
All the cowboy killers. But like we spent hours just chilling on that porch, just talking about life, and like, and this is what I did to do that, right? Because like that's what we do, and watching people help people, and you know, that is like that's my passion, right? It's like I like helping people. You said it. I got up for a job every morning for a fucking job I hated. Yeah. Every single day, I hated it. Hated getting on a bus in the middle of December, riding it for 2 hours to get to work. Hated it. That day you called me, it was like, you done roofing, bro? You want to come work for me? And I was like, absolutely. Had no hesitation, you know, and watching like Chris do what we do, you know what I mean? Like watching him just willing to just do whatever it takes to help somebody. It's like we have this thing, and I think we learn who our true friends are when you ask them, hey, I need something. And their first question isn't, what is it? It's like, yeah, I got you, whatever you need. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's how we are. And I think that's how I like value like friendship. You know?
Nah, it's crazy too, because I remember that feeling when like after that night, I was telling Sam at the time, he's gonna move in. And I'm like, I want to help this dude out. You know what I mean? And it's funny because every night that I pray, because I have like a continuous, like I say the same thing over and over when I pray. And one of the things, like I ask, like, use me as a vessel. I always say that to shine your light and your love, and put the person in my life that I'm going to help, and put the person in my life that's going to help me. And I thought that your point in my life at that time was for me to help you. I never could have foreseen how much shit that I would go through that you would be carrying me through over the course of, I mean, you were there with me when I went through the whole process with my biological father. You were there with me when I went through the whole process of my breakups. So many conversations like, yo, you all right? Coming in here asking me if I'm all right, fucking crying. I got to watch you with your daughter when she was finally in your life. Like I got to watch patience and all this shit, like to watch you go through something so difficult. And the thing that I loved about you is you never wavered in, like me, I'm a little bitch when I don't get my way, right? I know that, like that's how I am. I pout, and I watched you hit so many road bumps in your process of like trying to work through you back into Mila's life, and then to see everything that you went through. Never saw you cuss out your baby's mother. Never saw you like act out or fucking flip out. Like always, like, this is what it is. I did this to myself. I need to do the next right thing. And just like coming from that place, always sharing about it. And then when I did see you, when you did have that opportunity, and I got to see your daughter in your life, man, you inspired me as a father. Even still to this day, I've always looked up to you, like as a father. You're one of the best dads that I personally got to be around for a long time. And I didn't know what that experience was like, you know. And then at that time, I had my stepson, and I got to watch you with Mila, and I would learn so much. And even to this day, even with my daughter now, Viviana, it's like funny because I had a daughter and I got to witness Mila from a fucking baby up into like the grown little girl that she is now. It's fucking wild.
I never hear you bitch, Eddie, ever. You know what I mean? Like, no. Seriously. A lot of my friends had kids at young ages, and I remember them be like, "Oh, I gotta go get my kid." Like, you hustle, and you never complain about it, dude. You know what I mean? Because there's like distance. Like, your girl lives in Mass, or your baby mama lives in Mass, and you're up here. And like, dude, I look at your Snapchats. You're fucking constantly on the road, man. And like Chris said, he looks up to you to be a father figure. Like, I'm not a father yet, and thank God for that, because there's no way I would ever be allowed to see my kid. Like, that's the type of addict I was. But like, when I do finally, if I ever have a kid, like, I'm around the guys. Like, I surround myself with guys that are amazing dads. You know what I mean? And those are the qualities. That's what my sponsor told me to find, was like, hang out with guys that like you want something from them, like happiness, being a good father, being honest, like those type of traits, not the fucking stupid fucking Benz or fucking the house. Like, those are just external fucking. Well, I never.
Shots fired.
Let's find out you're talking shit subliminal.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yo.
22.
I'll drop a hot 16 bars right now. Dude, I'll come out with a fuck Chris LeDoux diss track right now, dude. I'll open up the next
Nico,
podcast.
get on the shirt right now.
But I think it's a true test of someone's. Like, you can test somebody's willingness to like step out of their own comfort zone when you add kids to their life, right? Like, see what you're willing to do and take your needs and wants out of it when you have a kid, especially if you're not with the kid's parents. And in my case, it's two different women with two different parts of Massachusetts that I travel to.
And it's funny that you touched on that, because around that time when we lived together, the relationship that I'm in to this day started around that time. You know, and you know, my stepson, his dad passed away from this disease. And I seen, you know, you grind, like Chris said. You had Mila all the time, always going, traveling, doing this. And when that relationship started, I mean, my situation was I was basically, you know, with me and my girl, right away kind of in a father figure role. And it's almost like I had never really had that, you know, in a serious way. And I used the way that, you know, you just touched on it, your upbringing and how your dad was. You know, I didn't really ever had that tight-knit family, so I used like the way that I was brought up and things that I saw as motivation to be there. Yeah. Right? Disciplinary ways and just what I would allow as far as like, you know, if he got mouthy or whatever it was, but just the difference was if I got slapped around when I was a kid, there was no explanation after. You know, and I've never even had to put my hands on him like that. I learned to be, I don't know, just kind of how we are when we deal with addicts. You're just coming from the heart and explaining, you know, if he acted up or if there was certain things, and just being there. You know what I mean? And it turned into this great relationship. I've coached all these different sports, and it's almost like my life went from, you know, I had knee injuries, so I wasn't able to play sports anymore. So being not thrown into, but my life switched into, you know, this positive relationship where I'm a dad, and I used it more to put the energy into a kid that needed it, right? You know,
and that says a lot about like both of you guys, your character and like taking care of somebody else's kid is not an easy thing. You know what I mean? So that says a lot like about you both your character. You took somebody else's kid and treated them like your own. That's not easy. I've seen many people fail. Yeah. I had like, you know, I was with Mila's mom. She had a kid when I first met her. It was hard. It's a struggle, and I was actively using back then, so it was definitely harder. But trying to build that relationship and be that person, it's not easy.
It was a lot for me. I was raised by another man, so I got to. I was hands on, so I like my stepson Romeo. I was Romeo, you know. So it was a lot easier the transition for me. But one of the things I wanted to touch on was like my favorite thing about you during that process, and for anybody that's watching this, it's like especially addicts as a whole, even society, sometimes people in general want to fall prey to their circumstances and lay down with the victim mentality, right? They allow their circumstances to cripple them physically, mentally, spiritually, where they just want to lay down and there's no action. And Les Brown always says, one of my favorite things is accept where you're at, but take responsibility for where it is that you want to go. That means that the acceptance of your circumstances, like you always used to say, I did this or stuff like that. Like, okay, you could have done one or two things. You could bitch every day, all day, every day. You could kick and scream. You could not go to work because it was freezing out in the middle of winter. You wouldn't take buses. Like, there was nothing stopping you from getting your daughter. There was nothing stopping you from to getting to work, and there was nothing stopping you to getting to meetings. Were your circumstances ideal? No, but there's the acceptance where you're at. The taking responsibility for where you want to go was by moving forward movement, progress towards an end result that is more in alignment with what you want. But people think that you can bypass the hard work part. The toll must be paid. Pay me now, pay me later. But either way, Christopher,
It's being paid.
it's being fucking paid. It's being paid in anything in life, right? Your acceptance to pay that toll out the gate was like so profound to me, because there's usually a lot of resistance early on to that.
100%.
And to watch like such a selfless nature, right? Like even still to this day, like there's like you drive fucking 1 hour to pick up your son, you'll drive another hour to pick up your daughter. Like if what are you doing this weekend? We're watching the fights. I got the kids. You know what I mean? Like it's always, you have your priorities in alignment.
Yeah.
You don't bitch, nothing like, and it's always towards something, the end result towards something. And it's, in that way you get to enjoy the moments that you do get, right? Because a lot of us lose valuable time. Because at the end of the day, this is the only thing that's real, right? This current moment right now. People lose touch with that. So they project themselves because of emotion so far ahead into the future, telling themselves that I'll finally be okay when, right? So you set timelines on when you're going to allow yourself to feel good. So therefore, you're never allowing yourself to truly be in the moment. Had you have done that, those moments that you were spending with your daughter, those moments that you were getting on the weekends, those moments where you were getting, you wouldn't have been able to enjoy. And when I would watch you be around that little girl, you were fucking present and lit up and so proud and just like, and God bless you. You have the best kids. And your daughter was like perfect. Perfect. Like she was just like this little beautiful girl, never gave you any shit, just loved her dad. And it's funny because that's all I like, literally in my mind. And I used to say it to Sam and stuff like that because I wanted a daughter, and I wanted to be loved the way that Mila loved you. Like, I don't know, it's weird. Like I just had that, like I wanted a little girl. You know what I mean?
It's different. It's having one of each. It's a different dynamic for sure. And it's nuts because when my son acts up, because he can be a little fuck sometimes, he's amazing. He's getting much better. But he hit those terrible twos. He hit them when he acts up, and I start getting mad. Like I never had to go through that with Mila because she was just perfect. She was an angel. There was never, I didn't have to raise my voice, didn't have to ask her twice to do anything. It was nothing. Like I ask him to do something, he looks at me and sticks his tongue out like he's the shit. And I'm like, yo, wait till you get older and you're gonna catch the hands, right? That's what I think. And I'm like, no. I'm like, because like I don't want to instill fear in my kids. It's one thing I never want. I don't want my kids to ever be afraid of me. Like I grew up with that. I grew up with fear. You know what I mean? I never want that to happen, but I see it happening. I see that in a like dad coming out of me. You know what I mean?
We'll have that conversation in 10 years.
yeah. I mean,
you know, for my situation, Jag's 12. He's going to be 13 Monday, and that's, I just touched on it. You know, I've definitely done some things that are fear based, but it's also followed with love and why I did that. Do you know what I mean? As a boy, because I honestly wish I had that when I was younger, because the world scared me. So sometimes you need to be taught confidence, so to speak. You know, as kids, when I was that age, I was super insecure. I was always new, you know, and I remember, you know, I only had up here, you know, I didn't really have advice and stuff coming in. So I was just filled with fear and just, I thought up here was real life, when really we fucking come up with such crazy things, you know, that I just try to instill confidence and different things like that. You know, it's just funny you saying, like, because with boys it is different. I don't have a daughter, but I have a lot of girls in my family that I view different when it comes to advice or when I talk to them. But with a boy, when they act up, like you saying, catch these hands. And I've had to snatch them up a couple times, and there was one in particular time, and it's funny because he'll watch this and probably laugh, or I'll be like, oh man. But I still have like a child in me, and when me and him would play like PlayStation and things like that, he gets real mouthy. I'm like, you're not about this life. Watch your mouth. You know, and there's a lesson to be learned in what I'm about to say, though, because every boy, for the most part, has some type of story where a grandfather or dad or someone did something that humbled you real quick. And he was running his mouth and we're playing PlayStation. He's bringing up, you know, no one likes to lose. And I'm trying to explain to him. I was like, do you see it? When I lose, I don't like it, but I'm not like throwing the controller and don't want to play. And anyways, he kept doing it, and he got real disrespectful. And I said, do that one more time and I'm going to slap you. Well, a couple minutes later came by and it was more of a real quick. I think I talked to Chris right after this too. And I was, dude, his whole fucking system shut down. He didn't know what to do. My girl was like, what the fuck just happened? I was like, exactly what I said was going to happen. And, you know, ultimately what's great about our relationship is that, you know, she sees that it comes from a loving place. Anyone that knows me, I can be super animated and lose my shit, but I always dial it back with explaining to him, or anyone for that matter, when I get mad at friends or whatever. It's just how I'm wired, you know? And that's how I know recovery works, because I wasn't always like that.
Right.
I'd throw the hands or whatever, and fuck them, they deserved it or whatever, and it's not like that now. I don't want there to be fear, but I kind of do if they act up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll get it with it. You'll notice it with it. It's so hard to say no to your daughter. It's like impossible.
I already see it in Chris.
It's impossible.
Come here.
I caught Mila.
Man.
I caught Mila
So
lying to me, and that's like one thing that I just don't want. I don't want to be lied to. Don't lie to me. Like I'm like, you're getting way more trouble if you don't lie. But I hit her with she took a shower, and I was like, make sure you wash your hair. She's like, all right, I got you, Daddy. So she goes. She like tells me she's all done. I'm like, all right, you wash your hair. She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So I went in the bathroom and I looked up, and the shampoo was like way up, hanging up by the spout. And I'm like, oh, come here, you wash your hair? She's like, yeah. I'm like, which one did you use? She's like, the purple one. I'm like, that purple one? I'm like, how'd you get it? She was like, I didn't wash my hair, Daddy. And I wanted to snap. I wanted to, like, everything in me was like, yell at this little girl. And I took one look at her. I'm like, can't do it. It's not happening.
Yeah.
If that was my son, he was going to get yelled at. But it's different with girls. It really is.
I already know it. I already know it. My daughter's got me fucking
Wrapped.
Oh, she got a toot on her too.
She's and I think she's emotionally fucking weird like I am, because I'm affection weird. I don't know if it's an Aquarius trait or whatever, but like I'm not overly affectionate. I can do it, but I get like, not like I get grossed out when I do it. I just get uncomfortable. Like
Who's this guy?
Like, you know, fucking Step Brothers when they hug at the end.
Awkward.
and they do that fucking. That's me full time. That's how that's what, at least, even if it looks like I'm normal, that's how I feel on the inside. So So my wife sends me a picture of my daughter playing with a Barbie. And at my mother's house, and she's like, she loves the Barbie, you got to get her a Barbie. I'm like, I'll get baby girls getting Barbies, you know what I mean? So I bought 2 Barbies. I bring them home, and I'm like, Viviana, I got these dolls. Look what I got. And she made, oh. She don't fully talk. She says, Mom, duh. That's all she says. And she goes, ooh, and those are like that's all her words.
Well, and hey.
Hi. But so she gives me the ooh, and I open up the Barbies, and then my wife comes in, and she's super excited, and I can see she's getting like overwhelmed, like with joy. Like I can just see her lit up with the Barbies. She's handing them ooh, and I'm just sitting there, and then out of nowhere, what she never does, right? Like ever, like willingly, she walks up to me and gives me a hug, like embraces me, puts her head on my shoulder, and she's hugging me. And I'm like, I'm looking at Sam, and Sam's like, oh, and I'm like just in this moment, like, this is fucking amazing. Yeah. And then out of nowhere, she like steps back, looks at me, and slaps me right in the face. Like as hard as she can, just fucking bam, slaps me in the face. And I identified with that on such a deep level. Like I completely
like,
got
enough of this.
It was like that's what she felt. She wanted to express it, and then she was expressing it, and she was like, I don't know what to do with my hand.
Just kidding.
Bam. And it was like, this little girl is me already. And I was just as I'm so fucked. I was just as appreciative of the slap as I was for the hug. It was fucking incredible. I wish I had it recorded.
That is great.
It was unreal.
You look at like all of us that got kids and stuff like that. You take these like dudes from the streets, and all inked up and all badass and fighting and shit. You put kids in their life and you watch them become little fucking bitches, right?
Puddles of mush.
It changed me.
Puddles of mush.
It changed everything. It's funny. I'll tell you quick story. So I was always fearful of having children because exactly what I just said, because I'm an emotional weirdo. I struggle with affection. I struggle with stuff like that. I don't know how to express things. I think there's like those books that talk about like different ways of love that people express love. Some people express through affection. Other people, my way to show you that I love you is through gifts. Like I want to do things for people. That's the way that I know how to express love. I don't do well with, like, even when I was young, my mother hugging me, like, even to this day, like, my mother can, like, rub my brother's back or fucking embrace or get, like, and I can't accept it. Like, my wife, she thinks I'm fucking the craziest because I just don't do well with it.
I get that too. I get called cold-hearted sometimes.
And I'm not. Like, I feel love internally. It's like, I just... It's probably from deep-rooted something somewhere. Maybe I'll learn about it someday, but I'm definitely getting better. So I always had fear, like I'm not going to be able to, be able to show the proper affection, especially with like a little girl. Like Romeo, my stepson, I love him, but the way you love a boy is completely different. Like I feel love for him, but I'm never gonna be like to a little boy. That's never like it's never required. So I never struggled with it, like to even think that one day we're gonna have to hold hands and cuddle in bed. Like nah, dude, it's like that. That's not ever going down. So it's crazy because. The first thing that broke me up was, so I got a dog, and I got a girl dog and puppy, and so I had Tank. Tank was my first dog, boy bulldog, loved him, but it was like different. Like he'd come up on me and like I love him, but then every now and then it's like, I get the fuck off me. You know what I mean? He's big fat ass. You know, he farts and he snores. It's like, and then I got a female dog. Her name was Zoe. And it's crazy because I look back and everything happens for a reason with everything. And this is actually going to be a little bit of a sad story. Maybe not for you guys, but for me talking about it. But so the way this dog came to me, I got her from this company called Puppy Spot. They sent her. I paid a lot of money for her. She's a beautiful dog, Zoe. And they drove her to from Tennessee, and you get them off this site, and they're like, there's no puppy mills, there's no stuff like that. It's like good bloodlines, like humane breeders, not overbreeding, all this stuff, and they vet them. So I get the dog, and when we go, we're so excited to pick up the dog. We pick up the dog, and we bring her home, and she's like this little love ball instantly, like just like holding her, all this stuff. And the first night she was with us, she was just like very lethargic. And I'm like, what's the matter with this dog? And I felt something was not right with her. And she just kept crawling into my arms and like laying her head on my shoulder. She was very like drawn to me. And so I tell my wife, I'm like, something's not right with this dog. Like we need to bring her to the vet. So we end up bringing her to the vet the next day. And they run tests on her, and she had pneumonia. She had a couple things. She had a fractured hip. This dog was like so many different sicknesses with her. And I'm at the vet, and I'm holding her, and she's like shaking, and she's looking at me. And they actually asked me, like, this dog's got a lot of stuff going on with it. Like, it's going to be like a lot of money, and we can't even guarantee that she's going to be all right. Like, you have options. You can put her down, or do you want to go through it? And I just remember this dog, like, looking up at me, a puppy. And I'm like, I don't know, fix this. You're going to fix her. And that moment when I was right out the gate in the vet with her, I was like, I just felt this, like, I'm protecting this dog. I'm going to protect her. Like, it's crazy. And spend a ton of money. We bring her home. She gets better. And like my Zozo, that's what she became, my Zozo. Like you would have never seen me more affectionate with anything ever. This dog, like would lay on me all day, every day, lick my face, just always. I would come home and it was like Tank didn't even exist no more. My first dog, I'm like, you fucking beat it, you fat ass. Like, and it was just me and the Zozo all day, every day. She gets sick again. Back to the hospital. Same thing. Medical bills. I'm fucking whatever we got to do. You know what I mean? Come back home. Same thing. Back. Went through this over the course of a year. Non-stop hospitalizations. And I was never going to stop. Like, never. When I tell you, like, I was clearing out credit cards. Like, I'm fucking, like, at this point, I'm probably $20,000 on credit cards. Like, taking care of this dog. And, finally, she was with us. It was like not even a year. She had to go in and get another surgery. She had she was born with an abnormally small trachea, and they had to do a surgery on her. And then she had cherry eye, and she had a lid. So many different things. I didn't give a fuck what they needed to do. I was like, just whatever it. I would have literally cleared my fucking I would have sold my house. That's how much I was like, I fell in love with this little girl. That's what she was to me. Now this is prior to my daughter being born. And so that last surgery she got, there was we bring her home and there's complications, and Zoe finally ends up passing. Dude, destroyed me. Broke my fucking heart. Like, when I tell you, even right now, I wanted to cry. Like, I mourned for this dog, this little, like, and it's crazy because I'm like sitting in my kitchen and I'm sobbing, and Romeo comes in the kitchen and my wife's a mess, and now he's never seen me cry. Never seen me cry. Not one time. And I'm like almost like ashamed, like when he walks in, for him to see me like sobbing, and he comes in the room and he's like, "It's gonna be okay, Chris. She's with your dad." And like, Jesus, I was like I couldn't believe him. Like, there's a 9-year-old boy consoling me right now, and it was like such a fucking profound moment. And obviously, whatever, we get through that. But in hindsight, so this is where I was going with that story. That dog gave me confidence when I knew, like, now this is, Sam's pregnant this whole time. My wife's pregnant with my daughter. And all that fear I had prior to this, like that anxiety and that fear, not only was that dog preparation, but she broke parts of me open that I didn't even know were in existence, and prepped me for when Viviana, my daughter, was born. All that I thought that I couldn't love a certain way and couldn't, like, and it's crazy because you're thinking like, oh, it's just an animal. You know what I mean? And anybody that doesn't love animals, like, you're either a serial killer or
you like Hitler.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, but that
I need a little laughter. I'm over here fucking weeping.
No, my bad, yo.
Dude.
I remember tearing up reading the post that you and Sam put
Dude,
up with the dog, because I really wasn't around that dog much, but I have a little dog, and even prior to that, when that happened, I didn't have the dog. But it's just, you love animals, and it's a living creature.
Yeah.
Well, no, for sure. And even my wife, after she was like, as devastated as she was, she saw how like she had a fractured hip, she had other stuff, and the hip was gonna cost fucking $15,000. That surgery, the trachea, the eye was gonna, like, she was like, "Chris, you were literally going nuts. Like, you were at this point, like, you would have sold the house, you would have fucking went bankrupt." Like, but that's when I'm telling you, like, I didn't even know I had that in me, like that type of love, like fucking.
I mean, I've seen something like that. I mean, you telling the story, which is super moving, and I'm sure some people are gonna get something out of that are watching. But I know you have that in you, not to that level of comparing it to your daughter, but our whole friendship has been. I used to bust his balls because the different apartments we had. You took something that was broken, that just needed love. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And this is real deal shit here. Yeah. You've done that with so many of our friends, to the point where I was like, yo, how many fucking people are staying on the couch. And but I bust his balls. You know, I bust his balls because, you know, I'm not going to get into names, but there's a lot of people, man. And I mean, and it was so severe that, you know, we even had someone almost pass away.
Yeah.
But because you just loved them up. Yeah. And we're in the business of saving lives.
You actually found them.
But you did that for me. You done that. See, before the difference, all these times that we lived together before, I was, you know, be in a relationship and that would crash and burn or whatever it was. And it was like, Jay, because we already had developed that friendship. Plus, he knew what kind of roommate I was. Let's be honest. Sometimes you take people on. It's like, how's this going to be? He knew that rent would be paid. He knew that we could share sneakers and hats. And because at that time, it was like, those were like our college years.
Before you're my roommate, I'm like, what's your size? What's your shoe size?
My size?
Yeah.
Well, every time we lived together.
We had one closet, the three of us.
And, you know, but I've witnessed that. You know, I know. And, you know, it makes me think of, you know, because you've shared this with your mom, and I know you get that from her. And there's times when we lived together, one of my favorite things was when we'd go by and visit and have these talks.
Yeah.
Right? The dog was broken.
Yeah.
You know, and most people would, first of all, would not drain that kind of money into a dog. They would, as sad as it would be, but you've invested. I've seen you do that with humans.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we're in the business of saving lives. So sometimes, let's be honest, some people come. The beautiful thing about where we're at in life, and that's what I love about doing what I do, is I can really put myself in their shoes and see how broken they are and just tap into that psyche. It's a little different with a dog because we can't, you know, you can't talk to them, but you just were, you know, financially invested. Like, I'm going to do whatever I got to do. Like, I'm not letting this dog go.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story, you know, but like, what I got out of that is I have seen you do that, our whole friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Oneida was like half baked, the clean version. It was like, yo, who's that dude? That's the guy on the couch.
Guy on the couch.
He's good. Don't worry. He's just gonna be here for about 4 to 5 days till he starts feeling better and get some color back in his skin. Then he's gonna be on his way.
Oh, many a people detoxed on the Oneida cup. Some still clean
that.
to this day.
Yeah, it's great though. The grief that you felt, grief brings out some shit in you. Grief brings out lets you and.
It brings out serious growth.
Well, growth, sure. Yeah, you're able to see the growth. It's like, and it's nuts because that you can take a positive out of such a negative. Like just that statement, like, damn, like I didn't even know I had that in me, but I needed that moment to happen. Like Zoe was put in your life in order for you to understand that, like, I got this in me even when we can't see it. It's like, many did, whether it's death, end of a relationship, whatever it may be. It's like we try and find a positive in something. We'll find that positive.
Well, you have to. That's the thing. Like with anything, especially loss, like. When you get past the grief, and you never actually get past the grief, but you look at like what a gift, right? That I was chosen to be able to share the time on earth that I had. Like even like in terms, I think of my stepfather, like how blessed was I, like that man was in my life till I was 27 years old, or 25 years old. Like he altered the course of my life. You know, like had he never loved my mother in spite of the fact that she had 2 kids from another man, I mean, I was living in a trailer park. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like in Florida. Mm-hmm. Like that's where my life was at. Like I was bouncing from home to home. She met my stepfather, and that changed the course of our lives. Like that gave me my brothers. Mm-hmm. You know, like what a gift that I got that. Even my biological father, when he moved into the apartment with us, when he was sober, he was fucking, I never had that.
Yeah.
And that was like another like I took a risk. My mother told me he was in detox. Mm-hmm. What do we do when someone that's like move in?
Right.
I moved him in. Yeah. And
Chris is aftercare.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we have to stop looking at people and putting them and separating them. They're just another addict that needs help. They're just another person that needs help, no matter if they share our same last name or not. And it's the same thing with my mother. My mother was the same way. You know, it's like I had to stop looking at her like my mother that hurt me. It was like she's just like me, and the more that I look at her that way, the better that dynamic's going to be, and the better that my relationships with people are going to be. Yeah, you know, in the grand scheme of it, because my relationships with people sucked until I was able to just accept that it's my mom. Regardless, she needs help. I'm a helper. I'm a talk to her. I'm a forgiver. Yeah. Forgiveness is something that we practice, that we need to practice. That's my theory.
Of course, they say I mean, I think I said this before. The closest that you can get to God is to forgive them, or to help another person and to forgive another person is the closest that you can get to God. But that it's when you're, for me, I'm always trying to connect the dots looking backwards. I always, because you could see God's hand, and we talked about this on the last podcast, and within any storm, there's a lesson of something, and the blessing's always within the lesson if you take the time to learn. And especially ups and downs, peaks and valleys of life, when you look back in hindsight, you can see God maneuvering in and out of your life, strategically placing specific individuals that are going to play an integral part in your life, and vice versa. And I always believe the best return that you can get on any investment is the investment into people. There's no better return, because the return in that investment is the relationships and the I need you, say no more, fam. You know what I mean? Those opportunities, like all. It's just, that's the stuff, that's how you quantify the, like, your life, like, as a whole. Like, what is the value of your life? It's never monetary. If it was monetary, they wouldn't be like depressed millionaires or billionaires or fucking like all that shit. So you can't quantify it as monetary. I ask people all the time, especially when I'm running a group, how many in here have you had money? How many of you have had a relationship, have had a dream job, have bought a house and all that stuff? Did you relapse? Yep. Okay, so we can already cross off the list that that's not what fills us internally. So it's something else, right? And I'm not saying the external world to want to attain and aspire to have nice things. You shouldn't. Of course you should. But to assume that is the epitome of, it's not. Yeah. That's the cherry on the cake. People try to make it the whole fucking cake. That's where they get that shit confused. The whole cake is what you do on the inside, making sure that your internal is where it needs to be at, taking the time to catch your mind up to wherever your life is at that time. You know, because a lot of people, and I talk about this often, don't take their life progresses faster than their mind does. And we got to understand, especially within life, with new levels comes
new devils.
So that all that means is that as you go through life and you're experiencing new things, there's more access that you can, that the disease has with where you're at in your life. People think like, oh, I've been good in I've done all this work, so I'm prepped for anything. You can't prep for something that you don't know is going to be in existence, motherfuckers. Unfortunately, you can't prep for the unknown. So you're gonna have to learn in real time and adjust and figure it out on the fly. That we have to take the time to catch ourselves up. And when we do that, that's how you're able to enjoy life completely and fully. But without the connection of people, right, that investment in people, when the new devils appear in your life, it's hard to navigate. People go into self-sabotage. People go into fear. Opportunities comes in that they don't want to take the risk, or their mind talks them out of shit, or talks them out of relationships, or talks them out of taking risks, or talks them out of, it's like my man Eddie, I'm going to put him on the spot right now. You're going to buy a house. He's got the credit score. He's got the finances. He's got all this shit. I'm like, you're going to buy a house? First answer, I don't know if I did 52 excuses. I'm like, yeah, whatever, motherfucker. Get a pre-approval. We just did the same thing with Jenna. She gave me literally the exact same response. The exact same response. Shout out, Jenna. Congratulations, her and Greg.
Congrats, Jenna.
On buying a motherfucking house. The same shit that Eddie said, which is the same shit that I used to say.
Right.
I used to say the same shit. My boy Nick, shout out Nick, would be like, dude, you got to buy a house. I'm like, nah. He's like, dude, just fucking buy it. You can do it. It's your head, your fear. You know, like your first instinct was like, I don't know. Well, I can't afford 42 excuses. And I know where that comes from. It comes from a place of fear. But at the end of the day, we have to walk through that fear.
100%. And you said like the investment in people. That's the most important thing. You talk about like the monetary shit, the tangible shit. Like that tangible shit don't mean shit, because like when the storms do come, that tangible shit ain't gonna get you to carry you to the storm. Yeah. Like when Greg passed away, and then like my grandmother passed away, Ricky passed away. Found out I was having, Micah moving out of that apartment all within 4 weeks. It wasn't the car, the apartment, the TVs, the sneakers. Nothing carried me through that shit. It was you guys that carried me through that shit. Yep. It was because I let you guys in. I let you guys like, yo, I need to invest in you guys, and you guys in turn invested in me. But it was the human connection that carried me through that shit. I don't care about tangible shit. Like I like nice shit. You know what I mean? I do like nice shit. And it was actually funny because I heard Jay say it at a meeting one time, and he was like, "Yo, I like nice shit." He's like, "If my life is in order and I'm buying myself nice shit, then like cool, like buy yourself nice shit. If you're going to buy sneakers with your last $100, then it's a fucking problem, right? He's like, and that stuck with me. That was like 8. I think I was getting high. I think it was jams when I heard that. And I still remembered it. I was like, damn, he's right. I'm all right. I'm gonna remember that when I get clean.
It makes me think. I lived my life so long with chasing that outside shit too, and there was a point in time, I'm like, oh, nice sneaker. I still to this day, I love that shit. But that shit used to make me. Like if I had a new pair and a new hat or whatever, I can remember years ago that I actually felt better. And I used to say, don't let that shit make you. You make that shit. Meaning like if you like nice shit, there's no issue with that. But when that nice shit becomes your main go-to, that's the problem for me. That's why I say it with such conviction because, we joke. We had all these every Friday night. Me and this dude and a bunch of our friends would always go out. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we did. They're like our college years. We always say that, right? But it became a thing where I had to buy new stuff every Friday. Right. And I was a barber for years, so it was always cash. Hand over fist. I mean, some days I made all this, but it was going out just as fast as it was coming in, and I felt better. That next day, that outfit and sneakers, right? It's not brand new anymore.
No.
And you touching on, like, that's not the whole cake. It literally, it made me think of, like, the full recipe with recovery and just being a better person is an inside job. You can have something that looks like a cake, right? It's like, dude, that thing's phenomenal. It looks delicious. And we bite into it. It might taste like dog shit. It didn't have the right recipes. Yeah. It looks like a cake. Oh, yeah. So I've looked good on the outside before. And like you said, a storm comes. People pass away. A relationship ends. And even with recovery, I mean, I was rocked. Like when we talk about Greg, it's come up a couple times. And I was sharing this the other day with how tough that was because I had relapsed and was keeping it a secret. Okay,
you were mad at me. You weren't talking to me.
Yep, and this is.
I found a new barber. Jay didn't want to talk to me anymore.
It wasn't even that. I was also hiding. I was basically hiding how I was really living at the time. That tears me up inside emotionally, right? Then someone like Greg passes away, who had an appointment the day that he passed away. He had an appointment at 4:00. Okay, and that shit rocked me. And that whole 45-minute slot. Like, I just remember crying and being like, and he fueled me to fucking get clean. No. Like, straight up. Like, and I had to go to that fucking wake and tell all of y'all. To this day, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I'd never have looked back other than to see how far I've come. I remember going to the men's meeting with the first day clean, and it was so powerful because that meeting is where I used to always bust Chris's ball. Yo, come Wednesday, you weren't there, because I always came from a place of love, and that's why Keith jokes with it and says Jay's a relentless friend, because I was searching for something my whole life, family wise or affiliated with the wrong people, or creating a whole life with graffiti, and it's turned into this beautiful thing. I've always looked for acceptance and just to be loved. So when I found people with as a connection, I don't care if I'm gonna bother you by showing you that I love you, and going to that wake and seeing guys and hugging them. I'm grieving Greg, and I'm also saying I'm coming back. And it was so powerful. My girl came with me, and I was tearing a relationship apart. I'm lying. You have to realize this same brain that had relapsed and was dying to come back had years of recovery at one point. So I'm like really knowing that I need to be back. It was like I was torn between good and evil, man. You know what I mean?
I knew that moment for something. Like when you hugged me at that wake and you were like, bro, like I love you. Like I'm coming back. Like I didn't doubt for 1 second that you were coming back full force. It was just something that was like, he's coming back. This is going to break him. And it did.
It did.
Yeah, that was a tough time. That was a tough time in all of our lives, and Greg King, for anybody that's watching this podcast that doesn't know what we're talking about, Greg King was a beautiful spirit that was a huge part in the Northeast Mass area. He worked in Boston. He was like in the trenches. He was one of those people that were like would go around Boston into alleys and give people clean needles and
he did outreach work.
He did outreach work, and he was in the thick of it, and he was loved by so many people. And I actually I had the honor of sponsoring Greg for a long time, and that was tough for me. When he passed away, I talked to him the night before, and it's tough, man. And the lesson within that is no matter how much in pain you are, that's why like my philosophies have always been like the antidote to the disease of addiction is honesty. constant communication, relentless communication, connection, honesty, relentless communication, and not being fearful of your truth, regardless of what it is. You're never obligated to be anything other than what you actually are in this moment. And the only thing that will ever keep you from the truth is your fear of perception. But don't give a fuck about how you're perceived by anybody, because our freedom lies within our truth, our transparency and our truth. Everybody gets so consumed in the how will I be perceived, and you'll be perceived as however you are in that moment, and that's okay, because it's life. Anything we can't control the emotional outburst, what's going on with us internally. We're not in control of that. And our responsibility to that is just being transparent in our truth and allowing people to know where we're at without fear of nothing. And people immediately want to hide, and they come with that mindset, like, if I expose my truth, that means I have to immediately fix whatever the fuck's going on. That's not true. Things change in time. Our truth begins the process of change. Our transparency and our truth begins the process of change. That's an act of surrender. That's an act of accountability, and that's allowing God to work in your life through people. That's that communication with people is how you'll get the help that you eventually will receive. And I know that broke open a lot of people. Greg King was a beautiful, beautiful spirit. We actually named, he used to always talk shit to me and Justin about our facility, because we only took private insurance and all that, but that's just where we were at that time. And we opened up King Healthcare, which is in network with Medicaid and all major insurances, because he was all about the fucking that gutter street, like what all of us, you know what I mean? And he was like buck the system type of but he was the funniest motherfucker in the world. He was a close dear friend to all of us, and he was taken from us too soon, but that dude definitely left his mark on the world. And I definitely changed a lot of people's lives, and he'll continue to through us, with King Healthcare. And I know, Eddie, your relationship with him, and Jay, your relationship with him. Chris, you would have fucking loved him.
Oh, you would have absolutely loved him.
All I've ever heard is good things about him.
Oh, he was all time.
All time.
He was one of a kind. There's no replacing Greg King. There'll never be replacing that kid. It's crazy because we talk about like the primary purpose is carrying the message to the addicts who still suffers. That don't just mean the addict who's like struggling to get into a room or struggling to get into detox. Like, people are years clean that are suffering.
Yeah.
Yep.
That disease is like, don't tell them that you're in pain because you got X amount of clean time and you shouldn't feel this way. All right, it's fucked up how it works. Your disease will use that against you.
Oh, that's why I always say, don't put me on a fucking pedestal.
100%.
Don't ever put me on a pedestal, because it's dangerous for me to be on that pedestal, and I don't want to be up there, man. I'm just another dude trying to get a day clean and trying to further myself. I'm going to fall short. I need you to know I'm going to fall short. I'm going to put that out front, so there's no expectations of anything other than that. All I can ever give is my truth and my experience and my helping of people. But if your requirement of me is to be perfect, then I will always fall short.
Yeah.
I will always fall short in your expectations of what you want from me. What I can give people is my truth, right? My truth. And I've always sponsored guys and even let people know. Even Andy will. You guys all know I shut it the fuck down. When I'm no good here and I'm no good, I shut it down. I know my limitations. I'll give advice like, this is gonna be shitty advice because I'm not in a good space. You know what I mean? It's probably not. Hey, should I buy this? Some days you could ask me, should I buy this shit? And I'll be like, buy everything, motherfucker. Spend it all.
You almost told me to buy a
credit
Benz.
card. Yeah, and then I'll preface it with, just so you know, I'm not in a good fucking space.
Do what you want with that information.
Yeah, I'm
But
letting
you
you
said
know.
buy it, right?
The Chris that you want for advice right now is not here. I can take a message, and when he returns, he'll get back to you. Or you could get advice from this Chris, which is going to say, make it rain, motherfucker. YOLO. We only live once. It's only money. You can't take it with... But I'll always keep it up front with you and let you know where
People respect the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and it's hard to find. When you find that, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Like you always say, when you really truly have no filter and tell someone who you are, the people that stick around, those are your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never want to be like. I always want to remember. Like, I always want to be even keel, eye to eye with anybody. I can't stay on a mountain bike, let alone a pedestal.
Oh,
Here we go.
Time out.
Good. I'm
Time
sick
out.
of crying. Please fucking tell a story to make us laugh.
You're welcome. I just
For
threw
real.
the oop up. Who's coming with the slip down?
Hold on. Let's see if we can even. We're gonna try something. We're gonna try something
Could
real
we
quick.
try like a pee break real quick? Could we
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. We're gonna take a pee break real quick, and then I'm gonna get my man Ryan on FaceTime.
Oh yeah.
We're back. We're back from our little tinkle break. Chris, we already know Chris got a weak bladder.
Very weak.
Very weak bladder. So before we went for the pee-pee break, so if anybody wants to know, shout out to my boy Rye. He's on the phone right now, but before we bring him in, Rye started this extreme mountain bike gang. And so my boy Ryan never mountain biked before. We're actually going to throw up a clip of his extreme mountain biking on this episode so you can see how extreme he is. And then, so he actually went recruiting.
Yo,
You
ain't gonna throw. Which clip you throwing up there?
I'm gonna throw the dope clip up there. Hold on. I'm gonna
Don't
throw the
play
L.
me out. Don't be like, yo, we're gonna hit you up. We're gonna play Eddie out and then play me out.
Hey, dream team, bro. Dream team.
I'm fitting to play everybody out on this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Got him.
I get the sense of that.
Well, before we get to you, because I might even save that clip for when Zach's in here. I don't know. We'll see how froggy I am. So my man Rye, he starts his extreme mountain biking gang. Just so you know, so he's got my man Eddie B, extreme, and then he's got my man Zach Hughes. Shout out Zach, extreme mountain biking.
Hi,
So
Jack.
so they go riding the other day.
Is he laughing?
He's already laughing. Yo, Ryan actually witnessed it, so we need to get this story live for the podcast. Hit us with it, Wiz.
Yo, the adjective for Eddie ain't extreme. Just to be clear on that. Set this clip up.
Okay.
Extremely mad might have been.
Set the table for us real quick. Set the table.
No, he's new. He don't got his legs yet.
Okay.
Yeah, he's new.
So
he's just getting his bearings with it.
So you guys playing this day? We're about to go hit
he
it
ain't
today.
pro like me, sponsorships, all that.
Yeah.
What happened?
You know what I'm saying?
So how did this event go? So paint
the picture.
Paint the picture for us. You know what I mean? What I know about it is this beautiful day. You got the GoPro. You got the you got the phone out.
The story's probably not much longer than the ride.
No.
Fire.
Just to be very clear.
Okay.
Nah, so fucking beautiful Saturday, dude. Gets me up like, yo, we're going riding.
Yo.
I was like, yeah. So we've gone riding a few times, and he, struggled a little bit, but he's game. So he hits me up like, let's go riding. I'm like, all right, wait, let's go riding. He's like, yo, I ain't no fair today. He's like, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna do whatever. So I'm like, all right, what? He's like, where do you want to go? So I'm like, your dickie's pretty extreme. So I'm like, let's just go to Mines Falls. You know what I mean? We'll get a nice. He's like, all right, we'll go there.
Okay.
So we drive over there. You know what I mean? It's an ordeal. You got to load your brake up. You got to fucking unload the bike. You got to get set up. So he's getting set up. He goes to throw his phone on his holder. I'm like, yo. I'm like, you don't even got to do that, bro. I'm like, I'll just track the ride and I'll just share it with you.
Okay.
He's like, all right, wait. So he puts his phone on the clip anyway. So we take off from the parking lot. We're riding. We bang a quick right. We're like 2 seconds into the ride. Just hit the dirt, bro. I mean, we were on the parking lot cement. Just hit the dirt. He's riding behind me. And there's like a hard left. And then there's like downhill. And then you got to go hard left. And like, I'm a little indecisive. I just see shit and I'm like, yo, just go that way. Something tells me to, just go that way.
Yeah.
So I bang a hard left. Next thing you know, I just hear skidding. I look behind me. My man's fucking skidding down the hill. 2 hops. and full blown jumps in an actual river.
Yo, I stuck that landing like a pro though.
Yo,
Bro, the only thing that wasn't in the river was his bike, dude. His phone, everything in the river, bro. Doggy paddling, trying to get out.
Doggy paddle.
Legit. Submerged, bro.
And whatever didn't end up in the,
fuck that day, yo, but I'm like, bro.
it was hot. I looked like I needed to cool
He
off.
wanted to cool off. He was done with the ride already.
so how many miles do you think that was for that day? You guys?
No, it was
Ryan
exactly
has a
0.3 miles. I checked it.
There and
Because I got
back.
back to the car and I was like, yo, you want me to sit out with you home? He was like, nah, I'm good. He was not having much of it. He was in a pretty sour mood.
Dope.
Oh man.
To be expected.
Oh, my phone was in there. We called my phone for like an hour and a half. Shout out to Otterbox. They work. We called it for an hour and a
Yeah,
half, and my
that
phone
beats
continued to
waterproof,
ring
for
for
sure.
about an hour and a half of being in the water. It was pretty nice. Lost
Pretty
my
nice.
phone.
Yo, so even beyond, so I'm like, dude, stop making them, because, dude, the river's filthy. It's a disgusting fucking river. So he's just making everything murky. I'm like, dude, we ain't gonna be able to see the phone if you keep kicking up dirt and shit. So I'm like, just stay still and wait for the sun to come out. So fucking,
Wait for the
so
sun to come
he
out.
finally sits still. 2 minutes later, dude, starts torrential downpouring. You fucking kidding me? I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Freaking out.
Oh, word in the street that Eddie threw a little temper tantrum.
And it wasn't my best moment.
Bro, so he tries to throw his headphones in, fucking throws them, they go behind him, they land on his bike, wrap around his bike, take them off the game, throws them again, bro. They fucking wrap around the tree. Gloves, dude.
They didn't make the
yacht
water.
sailing and shit into the river. Fucking priceless. All the while, I'm trying to hold it together because I'm a good friend. You know what I mean? So I kept it together the whole time, and then I left there. I called the dude. I was like crying, laughing.
Oh god.
He called me. He was like, dude, he's like, I had to call someone. He's like, you can't tell anyone. Eddie's so mad. Oh my god, dude. It was so fucking epic.
That was pretty bad.
So I think Eddie retired.
No,
Oh no, he's out of
no,
retirement.
I'm like the Conor McGregor of mountain biking. I'm
Yes.
just gonna keep coming out of retirement,
Yep.
hoping to get a big fight.
Yeah, he was just butthurt. He lost his phone, dude.
Yeah.
And fucking, he's back. He's back. He's a trooper. Yo, nobody takes the fall like Eddie though. He takes it like a champ. I gotta say.
Gracefully.
Well, I take it like a champ too.
Gracefully.
I'm sure you'll fucking play that clip.
I would never do
all
that.
good.
Right, I would never do that. I would never do that to you. I would never
Nah,
put
of course.
put a clip of you on the TV to my left.
Dude, it's all good, bro.
It's-
I already put it out on social media. My 126 followers already.
Yo, follow him at it's Wizzle. It's the real Wizzle.
The real Wizzle.
The real Wizzle. Yep. Sizzle and
Instagram.
Wizzle. That's it.
I don't fuck with Facebook.
You know what? I'm actually
Twitter.
excited because I've been trying to get Ryan on the podcast, but he's the little bitch. If we're just being
Yeah,
honest,
let's be
as far as
honest.
most confident, insecure dude I know.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy, but he'll be eventually on this podcast because we have so. I mean, I've known this dude forever, and you guys all know him, and he's fucking hilarious. But we'll get him to walk.
Yeah,
through
no, I'm
that for
actually starting my own podcast. Just get ready. I'm gonna have the best guest.
you. Yeah.
It's gonna be wild. You know what it is. My agent told me I gotta start stepping my socials up.
Yep. No, I feel you.
My sponsors, you know what I mean? All shout out to all my riders, Scott Mountain Biking.
Yep. Thick Boy Bike
Big
Club.
boy bike club.
Oh yeah, Big Boy Bike Club at Brendan Shaw. If you see this, you know what it is.
Yep.
Get you on the podcast.
I asked Ryan, I was like, yo, you gonna sell your mountain bike? He was like, I got full cash offer, and then I was like, fuck that, I ain't selling it. You know what I'm doing?
Nah.
I'm posting on Craigslist to find new bike friends. I'm gonna get new recruits for my bike gang. I love that attitude, you know what I mean? I love that. You can actually have Chris Ledoux because after he ate shit on his scooter,
Facts.
he's getting demoted to the mountain bike. You know what I mean?
Facts, dude. Yeah,
You might as well ride Zach. He don't use that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that. He's like, Zach's out. Yeah.
But yo, if there's anybody listening that does ride mountain bikes, you know what it is. That's real Wizzle. DM me. You know what I mean? I'll take you out on the test ride. See if you stay dry.
That's it. That's it. You know what I mean? Dope. All right, Rye. Thank you for phoning in. this is the perfect segue for when you do come on the podcast, which will probably be next week, which will be dope to get you actually in person.
Next week.
Yeah, he's been saying next week to me since we started.
As soon as that Cash App hits, he's gonna come on the podcast.
Yeah, you'll be on the podcast as soon as that Cash App for the food that I sent you goes through finally. I don't know what it is. Something about my Cash App to you, it just never works.
It's just pending.
It's always pending. I don't know. Yeah.
Take it up with the app. Take it up with the app.
Yeah.
But all right, homie. Thanks for coming on.
All right, I love y'all.
Love you,
Love you, Wiz.
Speaking of
All right,
Cash
bye.
App,
Peace.
speaking of Cash App, last year for my birthday, I remember everyone was wishing me happy birthday. And Chris turns around, he's like, "It's your birthday today?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "I'm 30." He's like, "Oh shit, all right, yeah, I'm gonna Cash App you." He Cash Apps me, right? Or he thinks he does. 20 minutes go by, he's like, "You get that?" I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "Oh, I sent you $200." I was like, "That's my old Cash App." He's like, "Oh. All right." He just walks away, dude. I still have yet to get that $200, yo.
And you're never gonna get it. That's the thing, right? Don't be changing your fucking number.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Don't be
so
changing.
good.
Somebody named Chris Ledoux somewhere on that phone that got $200. You know what I mean? I ain't sending that shit twice, motherfucker.
So funny, dude.
But we're coming to the end of the podcast. Shout out to my man Awkward Andy. You guys can't see him, but I want to. I don't even have my phone on him. I'm gonna put a picture of his face. I just want to. We'll edit that. I just, just so you guys can feel his presence. He's been in the podcast room the whole time, being a perfect hype man.
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he's the
Good.
best, man.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out All Construction. We'll put a logo somewhere, probably down here. Down here, you know what I mean? So we're coming to the end of the podcast. I usually like to throw you guys off, throw you for a loop, ask you a question, recovery-based type question. Everything's off the top of the dome, like when I spit, freestyle. It's been a while. I'll make you smile. Oh, girls like my style.
We just went
Do
back
it.
to
Hit
900.
it.
We
Hit
just
the
went
button.
back to 900 subscribers.
Hit the button.
Oh, I was freestyling earlier. I was beatboxing and everything. You hear that?
Little
That's
vicious.
my-
Little.
That was my beat. Y'all, this shit ain't a fucking game. Yeah, Jay was freestyling, then he got shy. He's a little rusty, then I freestyle. We're not good by any means. But we
I'll
do
stick to
this shit.
painting. I'll stick to painting.
Yeah, and I'll stick to fucking, I don't know.
Making money.
Shout out to my dad Yeezys. I wanted these because no one else wanted them. These are the dad shoes. So that I wanted those.
Those are the soccer practice 6s.
Soccer practice, the minivan 4s, dude. The minivan 4s. So quick question for some, I don't know, recovery based. I always like to, in terms of questions, I like to think back of like something maybe I wanted to know in early recovery, or something that could have helped me in my path of forward movement and progress. Some set of advice, or I don't know, like something inspirational that maybe you've heard that helped, was a pivotal point in your recovery that helped change. Maybe it was your outlook on things, or just something that you heard from someone. It doesn't even necessarily have to be in a meeting, like a set of advice or something that was given to you that altered, because there was so many things that was given to me for advice that helped alter my perception, or to help challenge my belief system, right? Always going into any conversation under the assumption that you could learn something. Stay open-minded. I live by the statement of the only thing I know for sure is that I don't know shit, right? Because that keeps me in a state of humility, man. And it's not that I don't know anything, but I'm not absolute in everything, because that brings me to a place where I'm not open-minded to change, because I can change my belief systems all the time now, man. I'm altered. I'm willing to hear people out and to learn. So, and through people, through our connections, there's a lot of valuable information that we can learn from one another. Everybody in this room has played a part and impacted me and changed the cycle of thought that goes through the narratives that I play in my mind. So, I don't know, something that you guys have heard, something that's been an integral part. I don't know, something that's really helped instill something in you, or help throughout your program or your process. I mean, we left throwing Chris on the spot because he panics.
Plus, it makes sense to go this way. So.
Always,
I
yeah.
hate
It
you
just
guys
makes sense
so much
because Chris
I
just
forgot the question already.
Dude, you're at
So-
fucking like 17 words on this podcast. You come on.
So something that I took from early recovery, a lesson or something that I heard.
Yeah.
Well, the remaining teachable thing is, which you kind of already said, but that's huge. But like, yeah, I heard ego is detrimental to my health. No, I'm not panicking. Ego is detrimental to my health, right? Because ego told me that I didn't have a problem. I could figure it on my own. And it didn't allow me to like ask for help, right? And ego also can come into my life in recovery and tell me like I don't need a meeting today. You know, you've been through the steps. You have you've had sponsees and brought them through the steps. You don't have to do anything for your recovery, right? And that just plays into, I'll never forget it, my sponsor telling me, he's like, you're never going to stay clean off what you did last week for recovery. So it's an every single day thing. It's an every single day grind. That doesn't mean I go to a meeting every single day, but I always stay connected. And that's not even talking about like me working in recovery. That's not my connection. But like people that I hang out outside of work and outside of meetings, like they're people in recovery. So that connection portion too is huge. That's what I got.
Thanks, Chris. Eddie?
Well, me, I heard a quote like 4 or 5 years ago. Is a quote that's always resonated with me. It's "Faith is trusting in advance will only make sense in reverse," and that kind of really resonated with me because one thing that is like really important in my recovery is faith. It's never letting my faith be broken, even when we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's still having the faith that the light's still there, even if you can't see it, right? And I look at like we touched a lot about how like things make sense. So like you touched on me getting kicked out of that sober house, moving to Lynn, really getting a relationship with you pulling me out of a sober house and having me live with you, then work for you. All of us live together. And this all goes back from that moment out on Lansdowne Street outside of Miguel. So it's like, if I don't think that there's some kind of faith, have faith that getting kicked out of that place worked out in my favor. It led me to bigger and better things. And like the proof's in the pudding for me. So who am I to like discredit that anything that's happened in my life is for a reason. It's for bigger and better, whether it's the end of a relationship, whatever it may be. It's showing me something. It might take 2 years, might take 3 years, but eventually I'm going to see that. So that's my biggest thing.
Way to be inspirational.
Something that sticks out is way back in 2005, I was in a halfway house, and my counselor at the time, I forget where this expression came up, whether I brought it up to him or he brought it up to me, but we'd always discuss this, and he would always say, Jay, you got to focus on the big picture. And him knowing my background with being in the artwork, and I actually knew him through a family friend before I was in that halfway house. It was Billy I don't know if you remember him. He had a strong, dominant voice, old school Italian dude from the North End. And when this motherfucker raised his hand in a meeting, it just, everyone turned around. And he would get going, he would just speak his truth. And so when I ended up in that halfway house and he ended up being my counselor, I just remember being so happy and driven. And that's was the beginning of when I put together all those years, but our meetings, and he would always focus the big picture. And that in turn ended up having me turn into a saying that I've always, I don't think I've ever actually painted it or anything, but it's been an idea where the paint has a story to tell, right? And I equate that with my recovery. Anyone that knows me knows that I love, painting. And those sessions that we had, he'd always say, focus on the big picture, Jay, meaning like whatever it is when I was in early recovery and wanting to have an apartment or wanting to, at that point I hadn't gone back to cutting hair. I had dreams of being a successful barber and all these dreams and aspirations. That whatever your big picture is, right? We kind of paint it in our head. Some of us, what we paint of that great life seems so, scary because we don't think we can get that. And I've always just had this big picture, since that time in my head. And what's beautiful is just sharing this right now. A lot of the stuff I've already accomplished years ago. And now that picture is way bigger nowadays, right? And there's less. It has less to do with stuff I can grab, and it's all stuff I've earned. You know what I mean? From the path and falling on my face and picking myself up with the help of friends, and to bring Billy into this. What's really crazy is that you know, his wear and tear of his active addiction, you know, caught up with him even with years clean, you know, and I seen him on his last days, you know, he was battling cancer, and I went there to cut his hair, you know, and this is a beautiful thing, and this is a super powerful moment in my life. This is a guy I looked up to, and now I had, you know, years clean, and I went to give him his last haircut. Well, I didn't. It was one of those things. I cut his hair, and I was sitting there. I'll never forget. The Red Sox were playing the Yankees, and it was the last game at the old Yankee Stadium. And I had already cut his hair, and he was in a wheelchair. He was on hospice, you know, so he was just at home. And this is a man that we talked about, the big picture of life, right? And now I'm there. And I remember watching that and sitting there, and I was like, this is most likely the last time I'm going to see this man. And I just remember it being super, like, moving and very sad, but just like, this man helped me, and I'm going to strive to be kind of like the best addict I can be that's in recovery, meaning like it's not always just about me. And what's really sad, man, is that dude saw me crying at some point in that visit and told me it was going to be all right. Now, if that isn't fucking moving, I don't know what is. He's about to die, and he's telling me it's all right. And the day of his wake, I'll never forget this. We went to the North End. I forget which funeral parlor it was, and me and my girlfriend at the time had a flight to catch an hour after that. And Leo, who has, you know, at this point, I think 30-something years right now, he sat down next to me, and I remember him seeing me crying, and I'm like, this is crazy. And I explained to him, and he said, you know, you're blessed, basically. Like, think about, yes, be sad about Billy, that's you're grieving, but you and your girlfriend are going to get on a plane and go on vacation. The big picture that I discussed, you know, with him a few years before this. What a beautiful thing, you know, and I always remember that, because that's the thing, man, is that people move on, and it's the memories. You know, you said it earlier, we have right now, right? Not to sound like a Hallmark card, but we only have right now, right? But the beautiful thing about right now, when you're truly in the moment and around the right people, and the brain starts clicking, and we have this dialogue, and we go on for an hour and a half, all these great memories and things that we get to share now with other people.
Yeah.
Like, I can still hear all the stuff that you've discussed tonight, and that you've discussed, and we still do it. We share stories, and that's just one that I don't even think I've shared with either of you two, right? Because it just, in any other times before, it wasn't necessary, or not necessary, but it just wasn't with that content of what we were talking about. You know, and that big picture is what I focus on, and that's why I think I just keep thinking of, I almost like aspire to keep thinking of things that will scare the fuck out of me, that seem unobtainable. Mm-hmm. Because with the right people in your life, I've seen so many people walk through things that make the next thing seem easier to walk through, right? So I guess that's the expression that really meant something to me, and still does to this day, is focus on the big picture, and the paint has a story to tell. The way that I paint from my heart, it has a story behind everything I paint, really.
Yeah.
You know, so.
I have a few. There were so many different moments throughout the course of my recovery that altered the way that I viewed recovery. Obviously, like early on, I remember, shout out Jimmy DeVoy, was one of the first speakers that I ever heard.
Same with
that,
me.
That could talk to my spirit, just talking about like more of the human element of things, like the internal stuff. And like he got me to become passionate about this. He got me excited that being clean could actually not be a prison sentence to the halls of church basements and all that shit. And I started to maybe believe that I could have the opportunity to enjoy life. Then or the profound change for me was when I understood the disease concept, right? There's this saying, and I think we brought this up a few episodes. It's one of my favorite sayings. It's all fear is a lack of understanding. The more that we understand, the less there is to fear, right? Especially in recovery. So I had to become a student to this, right? It's like only until we understand the depths of the darkness can we understand the light. What is required to get us back to the light, right? But we have to become students to anything. You want to be good at anything or whatever it is. You have to become a student. You have to be willing to take the time to learn. So I had to understand how the disease of addiction operated within me internally. And during that process, I learned a lot about how things operated internally inside of me. You know, I understand how the mind-body connection, you know, that like the power of thought, the power of intentional thinking, the subconscious mind. I became a student to everything, and that began a process of self-exploration and an evolution of the man that I'm becoming, still becoming, right? So I always had this mindset of I am who I am, right? I always lived by that. That's just I remember I love that song Eminem, because I am whatever you say I am, and if I wasn't, then why would I say I am? And I used to, like, even in my yearbook, one of my quotes was, I don't mean to be mean, but that's all I can be. It's just me. That's my fucking yearbook quote. I was just like, this is who I am. I'm this fucking fucked up kid with a fucked up head, and I'm on I created all these narratives. And when I became a student, right, and there was more understanding, I began to understand. That gave me the ability to walk through fears, right? Because fear is a lack of understanding. When I understand that my belief systems, my limited belief systems are my barriers to entry to where it is that I want to go. Like your barrier to your fear is your lack of understanding of how mortgages work and how all this shit. So therefore, your barrier to entry is you telling yourself that you can't afford to live in a house right now, even though I know if you buy a multifamily, you rent out one side, it pays for the other side, and how easy it is, 0% down. I understand, so I look at it like, that ain't shit, motherfucker. You can do that like that. But that's where I was at for so long. But the more I understood about how my mind operated and how this shit affected me internally, the more I was able to overcome this stuff. I had to become a student. Anybody that's watching this in recovery, but become a student. Don't just go to the meetings to learn. If you really want to progress, go to the meetings and then do your own investigation, right? Learn on your own. There's speakers on YouTube. There's motivational speakers. There's so many different people. That wall's full of so many different people, and they're not all just recovery related. I learned how the mind operated. I learned how to increase my spiritual connection. Like when I say quotes, I'm quoting T.D. Jakes, I'm quoting Jordan Peterson, I'm quoting the Narcotics Anonymous literature, I'm quoting fucking a plethora of people because I'm a student to this shit. And so that was one area. And then the convention speaker that said, if I told you the truth about me, would you still love me?
We were sitting right next to each other when she said that. So.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. And if you don't understand why that would alter me, ask yourself that question right now. Anybody that's watching this, think of that statement. What a profound statement. If I tell you the truth about me, no, like the full truth, like I'm talking about opening up, here it all is. Here it is. All of it. Now, if I tell you the truth about me, will you still love me? And like that it just altered me, you know? Because that's always the question. No matter whether you want to believe, whoever's watching this, that is always the question. In any relationship or dynamic that you're in, will you still love me? Because ultimately, like one of the biggest fears, because that's something hard to understand, the concept of unconditional love. Like we can go through experience, but sometimes we'll get it and sometimes we won't. So that's more of like a faith thing. But just that statement, like, and it's funny, we were running a group the other day and I was talking about like the importance of honesty and like sharing your truth, and people were like, well, what if people judge you and all this shit? And I'm like, they're gonna judge you. Expect that they're gonna judge you. Here's the deal. You share your truth, you're gonna isolate yourself from a lot of people, but then you're gonna connect yourself to some very important people. And guess what? Those are your people. You've just sorted through the bullshit and found out who your people are. Those people, and I pointed to Jay, that's who I cleared out the room. I found this motherfucker. I found this motherfucker. I found this motherfucker. I found him through my truth. That's what bring me in my connection. So when I hide from my truth, I have fake whatever relationships. I'm not given the opportunity to be loved unconditionally. And so like I live by that philosophy. If I tell you the truth about me, will you still love me? Some people won't. But that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is the people that still do. And in return, I give that back as well. Right? To give and receive love at the end of the day when we're on our dying bed, all that's going to matter is how much did I give and how much did I receive love. That is all that's going to matter. Everything else is it doesn't matter. When you think back in your life, you view that. How much did I give and how much did I receive love? Not how much shit did I buy, how nice was my house. How it doesn't fucking matter, because within that, if you're not experiencing the power of love, it's all bullshit. So I just went on a little rant. But this is episode 11. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, Rich Print Shop, All Detailing. Shout out to
The Label LTD on Instagram, and my boy Charlie the Hustle.
Dope.
Charlie the Hustler.
Charlie the Hustler.
Fuck Supreme.
You want to shout out anybody, Christopher?
Shout out to my mom. Love you, Mom.
Yeah. You want to shout out anybody?
Shout out to my kids. I love my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Camila, gang.
Oh, yeah,
Andy, you want to shout out anybody? I'll say it in the mic for you. Will you come here real quick? Just so we could get you on the episode. This is just so everybody can say Andy when they're watching the podcast. Awkward Andy was in the building the whole time. This is episode 11, SomeBuddies Podcast. We love y'all. Peace.
Peace.